Hello, I'm David, a professional astrologer and teacher of astrology, and this is just a short video clip to explain a little bit about one of the techniques of astrological forecasting. There are different types of astrology, and different astrologers have different techniques and technical ways of looking at what is going to happen in a person's life ahead of where they are in time. One of the techniques is called transits. The word transit means to move, so it looks at where a planet is today compared to where it was in the position of a person's birth chart, their natal chart that's drawn at the time and place from where they're born. So the forecasting of planets is a little bit like looking at these movements. So if you can think that the sun occupies a certain position in the sky when we're born, and like the second hand of a watch, or the minute hand of a clock, the sun moves approximately 1 degree a day. There are 360 degrees in a circle. So it takes about a year for the sun to kind of tick its way round and return all the way back to the point that it occupied in the sky at the moment that we took our first breath. And astrologers call that return of the sun the solar return, the sun's return, which is possibly behind the phrase many happy returns. Obviously we know that the moon takes about 28 days and a half days to go around the earth, so every 28 and a half days we have a lunar return. As we radiate out from the sun, the orbits of the planets get longer and longer, and therefore it takes them longer and longer to travel round. So every 2 years we'll have a Mars return, every 12 years a Jupiter return, 29 and a half years for Saturn, 84 for Uranus, and so on. In conventional astrology, the largest orbit time we look at is Pluto, which is 248 years. And as these planets move around the sun, in terms of comparing them to the person's astrological chart, it looks as if they make and break certain angles which are formed as they move around. And it's these angles that are broken and made that we look at to give us an idea of periods of time. Now, astrological forecasting in this sense isn't a script, it's more of a map. I guess it's akin to looking a bit more like at a weather forecast. So it tells us that there are periods of ease and periods of challenges, and we know in what area of life these periods of ease or challenges will occur, whether that's in relationship life or career or home life, or maybe affecting more than one area at the same time. We know what the nature of these challenges is like, and also when they begin and when they end. And one of the things I found really useful when I was young and I encountered astrology first of all, was that I was going through a particular hard time, and an astrologist told me, this is happening, and this is happening. I said, yes, that's right. And he said, and the thing is that it ends there, in October. You've only got to get through to then. And suddenly it was like an illumination. You know, when people are experiencing a great deal of difficulty, it can seem as if the kind of crisis they're in is like a fleeting moment of eternal darkness. Like, you know, when you wake up from a nightmare and it takes forever before you can get the courage to reach your hand out and switch the light on. You know it's only a few seconds really, but it seems to take a long time. And when people are in difficulty, it can seem relentless, and it's that never-endingness that makes it so hard to endure things. So if you know absolutely that the cloud will lift, you know, at a certain time up ahead, suddenly you find you can have a steely resolve and muster the strength to just get to that bit, you know. So it can be quite useful in that sense. Now, these periods of ease and difficulty aren't set in their manner. They have fluctuations and variations, a range of parameters. A little bit like with a weather forecast, you might know that it's going to be windy on Sunday. And so you know it's going to be windy Sunday. If you have a picnic, even though you know it's going to be windy, you could end up spending the whole afternoon chasing paper plates around a field. Conversely, you can take advantage of the wind and go windsurfing and have a great time. So the astrology just says it's going to be windy. What we choose to do with the wind, how we respond to it, what we draw from it, that's something that's in our control. So in that kind of sense, astrology is not a script, like a path of destiny. It more kind of shows you the range of things, the pathways that spread before you. Someone said to me years and years ago, isn't it irresponsible to tell someone their future? I said, yeah, it probably is, if that's what I did. But I'd kind of show people a box of futures and then help them to choose which one they want out of the collection. Now, one of the ways of looking at this, a metaphor I read years ago, which I've always really liked, was these periods of time don't just happen overnight, they build up. A little bit like if you're on a country railway platform and you might see the track curving away off into a distant horizon. When you first see the train appear, you can't hear it. It just seems to very slowly kind of curve round. And then all of a sudden, it faces you. And then it looms in. And before you know it, the train sweeps through the station. You can hear it, and there's leaves and dust, and everything is all thrown up in the air. And the train whizzes through the station. But long after it's gone, we still get all the dust and the leaves all kind of coming down and settling. So, leading up to these periods of times, it's as if you can kind of sense that there's a change in the air. And then there's the impact of its moment, and everything's thrown up in the air, and it's all turbulent and tussly. And then after it's gone, a settling down period happens. So the time maps and things that we use in astrology look at these moments of exactitude, literally when the train is coming through the station. Now, what can happen sometimes? You may have been on a train at some point in your life, parked in a station, and there's a train next to yours, and they move off, and as they move off, you get a feeling that you're moving, even though you're not moving. There's an optical illusion that occurs in astronomy, and it's to do with the relationship between the sun, the earth, and a planet. That it looks as if some planets, while they're revolving round, suddenly look like they stop and then go backwards, and then stop and then come forwards again. They don't really do that, but it's how it looks from our viewpoint. And that's called retrograde motion. And because of retrograde motion, it can seem as if a planet occupies a particular portion of the sky for a long period of time. Some planets, like Pluto, who have very slow orbits because they're a long way out from the sun, appear to hover in the same space for up to 2 to 3 years. So sometimes we experience things in life where we have an ongoing crisis, and it's not just one day. It can seem like a period of time. It's turbulent and invoking change in some way. And these kind of invocations of change are symbolized through transits in forecasting through 5 different planets or lenses or facets of human nature. One of them is Jupiter, and we use Jupiter as a symbol for hope, for things going well, for luck, a sense of optimism. And by